How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I want to bring along with me to talk about why I pre-ordered the A7 IV despite having the 4K 60 crop to upgrade my A7 III. So let's jump right into it. So as you've probably seen plenty already, there's a lot of videos out there showing you what the A7 IV is capable and basically the reviews about it and how it works and everything in between. Sadly, I'm not fortunate enough just yet to get that access to review products that are coming out and everything, but I'm working my way up there. But I'm just going to talk about a little bit more in depth about why, despite of it not being the perfect camera just yet in my eyes, I still decided to upgrade to the A7 IV and pre-order it. And I mean, I just love discussing these kind of things in hopes that it'll help you out as well, since that's my way of reasoning of why I get certain things as well. And it's just a fun little discussion, so always love to interact with you guys. So now one of the first reasons and the most obvious one, well, it was the upgrade for 10-bit 422 color grade for the camera itself compared to my A7 III. And the best thing about it is from the 4K, obviously 24, all the way to 60, even with the crop, it's okay with that because it has the 10-bit color range that literally my A7 III has none of it. So that's something that I thought was very important, that would be a major upgrade for this camera that I currently have, and to go into a better camera in itself that is not as expensive as the A7S III. So for me, it just made sense to have this color depth into it where I can have better for color grading and kind of push myself a little bit more with my color grades to just get better and learning for more for my work or for these videos or anything that I want to create with. So that made sense for me to have that kind of upgrade. Now the second reason of why I pre-ordered this camera was basically the autofocus update basically paired with the flip out screen. So now let me dive into that a little bit more. So when it comes down to the autofocus of the A7 III, it's a really great autofocus in all honesty, but it doesn't have continuous eye autofocus like the A7S III has. And also with the flip out screen of the A7 IV, it'll make it easier to do these kinds of videos because then I can make sure that I am always in focus and I'm properly exposed as well. See, the thing with the A7 III is basically that you only get the flip up screen, which is actually quite nice. I do like it a lot when it comes down to the flip up, or kind of like downwards a little bit when it comes down to using it. But the one thing I do want to have is the flip out screen so I can see myself easier and not have to use the mirror that I have up here to make sure that I can see myself in focus. And also for those low angle kind of shots, because the A7 III only has the flip up screen, so if you do it, portrait mode, you can't really see what you're shooting up to unless you shoot landscape mode. So it's one thing that I thought was a pretty good upgrade to have. So now my next reasoning is obviously having the 4K 60 despite the crop. That's obviously a bigger update when it comes down to the slow motion that you can do from the A7 III when it comes down to the quality, because you do have that 4K, which is 10-bit, even though it's a cropped kind of APS-C censored style slow motion, which not really understanding why they went with that route, but it is what it is at this rate. You can't change it. But I really would have hoped that they would have done a little bit more with maybe doing some 120 frames per second, maybe like a 2.8K or something like that, or oversampled style in 10-bit or 8-bit at least, just to have a little bit more quality to, bring something new to the table than the R6 or the Lumix S5 that they already have 4K 60 10-bit. But it's still something that it's more, I guess, affordable when it comes onto the camera, and also compared to the A7 III. But in my honest opinion, they at least shouldn't have had the crop censored when it came down to the 4K 60, at least not a 1.5 crop. They should have been like a 1 times, crop, or maybe 0.6 or something. But I know that the reasoning why is because obviously they didn't want to just take away from the A7S III, which in my honest opinion, I don't think it would have, because Sony A7S III has 4K up to 120, 422, 10-bit color depth. So it would just made sense to at least do it full frame, since it is a full frame camera and it's supposed to be the nice hybrid kind of style of camera. But like I said, it's better having a 4K 60 cropped 422 10-bit than not. So that's better to upgrade in my eyes than keeping the A7 III in that scenario. And now the fourth and final reason of why I pre-ordered this camera is basically the low light capabilities despite having a 33 megapixel sensor. You know, having that 33 megapixel kind of count, it has that sweet spot where it can be a great hybrid shooter. And from obviously having that oversampling of the 4K, basically 24, I think it's 7K oversampling, it seems like it has a nicer low light capability despite that higher megapixel count, at least from what I've seen from videos. Matti Haapoja did a video about it where he was comparing it to his A7S III, and he was even kind of more impressed of the quality of the A7 IV. So I mean, I'm assuming some science behind it from the oversampling had to do with that, and that's pretty cool in my opinion. So that's something that I kind of was a little bit more sold on after that. So with that said, I mean, having a great hybrid camera that works in low light for the photo and video, I think it's just a kind of no-brainer upgrade from the A7 III, because this camera is a phenomenal hybrid camera with the low light as well. So I mean, having that 10-bit with low light just seems a lot nicer to be able to color grade it a lot better. So yeah, that's another reason. So basically those are my reasons, and I'm still happy enough to have pre-ordered this camera despite not having like the 4K 120, even at 8-bit or oversampled, just to have a little bit better quality 120 frames per second or 120 frames per second. I mean, it's nothing horrible. Obviously, a lot of people say that they're not going to use the 120, but I tend to use it quite a bit over the 60. But despite of it, I still be able to use the 120 even in like full HD and all that stuff, so that's okay with me. And just, I think it's still going to be a phenomenal camera, and it's a way better upgrade than having the A7 III. Now, the higher price than comparing to when the A7 III came out is not the most exciting thing in my eyes, especially with the upgrades that we're getting. I mean, it is a lot more upgrades, but it's also not far above beyond compared to, like, for example, the R6 is 2500, but then the Lumix S5 starts at 2000, and it has the same specs to a certain degree. So it's obviously Sony, so I'm okay with understanding everybody's reasoning with the shortages and whatnot to bring a little bit more of the price, but just sucks for my bank account, I guess. But yeah, a lot of people seem excited for it, so I'm just gonna leave this question to you. Did you really like the camera and you pre-order it, or is it just not something that you're wanting and you're probably gonna switch companies if you already have Sony, or if you're gonna move into Sony because of this camera? We'd love to know your, reasonings and discuss a little bit down below in the comments. So go leave a comment and let's have some talks. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.